It comes to me to say, this teaching is not a formula to have a better life. This teaching is an offering of love, is an offering of a life of service towards one another for the sake of love itself. It's not something that is given for you to have a better personality or a better life or a better something. It's an invitation to celebrate the fact that we are alive. It's a celebration towards existence. It's a path of devotion towards love. It's a path of understanding of what we are, and is a path of acting it in our life. The invitation is here in every moment. It's not given by me, it's given by life itself. And it's calling us. If you're here listening to this interview, it's because it's calling you too. In the midst of everyday life, we often feel overwhelmed by what is going on. And we all look for a safe place, a silent place, a peaceful place, either outside or within, to rest. And this teaching is a teaching that pinpoints a silence and a peace that is unshakable by the events of life. It's not a peace that comes from the outcome of any experience or action. It is instead something that is before everything, behind our mind, behind our actions, behind our personalities. This silence, this peacefulness remains. So the peace that I'm talking about is something that cannot be found as a consequence of an action, but can be recognized as the prior condition before everything. This realization arrives out of a self-inquiry that is not just questioning ourselves through the mind, but opening our heart to places where there is still contraction, denials, refusals, recognizing them, and possibly meeting the reason why they were there, and finally letting them go. So it's an inner transformations that is not led only by our intelligence, but also by our intuition and our heart. The result of this is not just an inner transformation, but also an outer one. We find ourselves having a completely different point of view towards life, towards the others, because we have a different point of view on ourselves. The starting point changes. Behind the senses, behind the experiences of all these bodies, there is something that remains always the same, that is unchanging, and is the true self of every being. This awareness, this silent awareness, is this peacefulness, is this quiet, vast, and loving space that can help us to navigate through the overwhelming waves of life and the conflicts of our existence. It does not mean that it will resolve them, but it will give us the opportunity to face them and to learn from them. Every human being, even when they don't know that they are looking for this space that we can call awareness, consciousness, love, peace, also when they don't know it, they're looking for it. The point is that they're looking for it in the wrong place. They're looking for it in their families or in their relationships or in their work life. in experiences that come and go. And I thought these things can give you pleasure or joy or happiness temporarily. They cannot give you a long-lasting satisfaction because they come and go. People die, situation changes, work change, where this peace that I'm talking about, that is the true self of our being, doesn't come and go. And the surprise that comes with finding it again in ourselves is discovering that all our fears, all our psychological fears, come exactly from not being in contact with this peace within. Because we look for security in a world that is totally impermanent, that is changing all the time. So the sense of insecurity and anxiety that this gives us, it's what is creating the suffering that we meet. When we can acknowledge and find this peace within, then the fact that life is changing all the time doesn't become a problem, but is actually a beautiful experience. The fact that life gives us so many tastes, so many different things, it doesn't become, a curse, but a gift. All the experiences of life, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative, are like pearls that are wired together through an eternal wire that is awareness, emptiness, silence, peace. And is by resting in this recognition in our everyday life, moment by moment, that we can enjoy each pearl, each jewel, each moment, without necessarily having to protect ourselves from it, either because we are afraid of losing it or we think we can't have it. There is no refusal or attachment. It's not enough knowing it, right? By resting in this, by recognizing it within, not as a concept, but as a direct recognition, what we will discover is that we are attached to so many false images of ourselves. We believe that our true identity is something that is not. We grow up believing to be a separate person with a name, with a story, with a background. And we go along with life thinking that's pretty much it. But as we grow up, we might discover that in reality, the authenticity of our being doesn't match these definitions that society or family or religion or any kind of institution might have been labeling us with. And the seeking of this authenticity becomes a journey of discernment, of letting go what is felt as false and remaining what feels right in our heart. The compass of this discernment is the heart. When I say the word heart, I'm not meaning in any way the physical organ, of course. I'm speaking about what Ramana Maharshi also referred with as the place where consciousness abides. So this one consciousness that lives behind and as and through everything is in the human being, is in the heart, in the spiritual heart. So what we see, what we can find is that by using this discernment of the heart that knows, without knowing how, that's the beauty of it, that knows what is true and what is false, we might start to see that many of the masks that we wear in our everyday life are not us. They don't really belong to our heart. They belong to something that has been given to us because it was convenient, or that we built up maybe because we were afraid of life. So the journey of a spiritual seeker is letting go what is false and remaining only with what is real, and is a journey of dismantling all that doesn't feel authentic. Of course, sometimes this journey can be painful or difficult for some people, and we can only use our sincerity and honesty and find courage in our heart to carry on. Even staying with our fears, even staying with the fear of letting go ourselves into what is real, is a journey in itself. Even recognizing all the frail and vulnerable parts that say, no, I don't want to let go of this. Even that is a teaching. ultimately the teaching comes from life itself, that confronts us with all these dilemmas and contradictions and leave us naked and at the end open-hearted towards it. When you are confronted with the yes and no's of the mind, you will always find a reason. It's always very reasonable. I don't want this because. I don't want this because. But you might discover that when you confront that with your heart, it doesn't feel right because there is no joy in it. There is no expansion in it. You don't feel yourself in it. When you live aligned with your heart, when you use really the heart as a compass in your existence, you discover that your choices are not coming from a convenience. They're coming from the joy of existing. Of course, we are so contrived in the way in which we live that sometimes we are no more in touch with this joy of existence. It seems lost. The good news that is never lost. It looks like it's lost, but it's not. And the way to finding it is really to be absolutely honest with ourselves. Am I moving in this situation because I'm afraid, or am I moving in this situation because I feel expanded and open in it? And then by following this, slowly, whatever is not real for us will fall down. As I say before, is a journey of dismantling something that is an illusion. And it doesn't happen in a night or in a day. It takes all our existence in a way. But the drive is this thirst for truth. I believe that if somebody bumps into this interview, it's because he's looking for something different in their life. And what has been driving, any viewer in watching this interview is this thirst within for truth. Now, this thirst for truth does not come from a person. It comes from truth. So your heart is already seeking. Your heart is already looking for something real. The mind will have many reasons. The heart will be silently expanding and say yes and no, not for a reason, but for the sake of joy. That's the difference. Maybe it's good to mention that joy is not pleasure, or happiness. Happiness has an opposite in unhappiness and pleasure in pain, where instead joy is unconditional. Joy is what is in Sanskrit ananda, eternal bliss. It's something that doesn't change. It's a radiance within that doesn't have any opposite. That's the quality of our heart. That's the radiance of awareness. That's the emanation of awareness into existence. We will find ourselves unavoidably, in new choices and decisions. And as we live them, we will feel if our heart is expanded into it or is disillusioned. And so it's through the experience of life that we learn also what is true and what is not. We might have ideas about ourselves, and we might mistake those ideas for the compass of the heart. And it will be through the living that we will see, if we were actually trying to hide something from ourselves, protect us from some experience of life, or really was the pure joy of existence. A quick check would be if in the pursuing of the action we feel joy, or we are expecting a result as joy at the end of the action. When an action is truly coming from joy, as we are performing it, we have no expectation on the result. We are simply happy of doing it. Our being is radiant and open, and it does not matter how is the result of it. Where instead you have a strategy, when you have an intention, that's the ego-based mind. That's the fear of the mind that says, I'm doing this to have that. To understand better this, we can look at children. Children naturally live from the heart. Before they are taken by the conditioning, they are pure beings emanating this joy of existence. As children, we don't do things for a reason. You know, we do things because we like doing them. We play for the joy of being alive. And as adults, we tend to lose this because we get so taken by the duties and the do and the don'ts of existence that we cannot, find again that drive into joy. Maybe we have it very, in a very little way in our hobbies, but for the majority of people, for instance, a job, an occupation, it's not a source of joy. When is your joy that produces your action and not your action that should produce joy? You are living from the heart. When joy is the force through which you live, then you're living from the heart. When you try to find pleasure or happiness or joy through something, then you're spoiling it. Then you are trying to postpone the joy of the moment to have it afterwards. And that postponing is seeking and is suffering. Life itself guides us to see where we are suffering in our life. We can lie to other people, even to our partners, and say, oh, I'm happy, I'm perfectly fine. But deep down, we know when it's not true. We know when there is suffering present. And by being honest about it with ourselves first, we might see how much we have been acting out of fear in our life. Fear of losing what? We are going to lose everything at the end of our existence anyway, including ourselves. If we live from fear, our life is full of misery. It doesn't mean that you live irresponsibly, carefree, not thinking about the consequences. But you live in a way that makes your heart happy every day, in a way in which, every night when you go to sleep, you say to yourself, I could die this night. I'm okay. I did what I wanted. That's the life of a sage. That's the life of a free man, of a free woman. Is a life that is not led by fear, by psychological fear. And sometimes we might find that in our heart there are some shadows of fear, and we can be sincere about it and correct. In any moment we can change our life. It's never too late and it's never too soon. In any moment we can be sincere with ourselves and see what is guiding me. Is passion guiding me? Is joy guiding me? Is love guiding me? If not, we will suffer. Sometimes we might think that, we are responsible for other people and we cannot afford to live from joy. And we could ask ourselves, what am I transmitting to the world? What am I transmitting to my family, to my children? What I'm sharing with the world? Am I sharing really my love or my misery, my sadness, my desperation? Also, this can help us in making a change in our life. We are connected, not on the surface. On the surface, we are all different. We have different stories, different backgrounds, different existence. But deep down, we are all connected in the heart. If each one of us can shine from the heart, this radiance is felt throughout all the universe.